Hey everybody, welcome back to Across the Grooves. So, we're on the train heading to London. 1 o'clock, I'm on a train heading to London, arriving at St. Pancras in just over 2 hours, which gives me the time to find a hotel and prepare my search. As there's probably no better way of finding a record store owner than talking to the other record store owners, I'll begin by making a list of stores to visit. I'll take the opportunity to ask a few questions about the record, too. After my exciting night, I've spent a hectic morning running from subway to catch the first train, and all on an empty stomach. If I'm going to be roaming London with my suitcase, I really should eat something first. I begrudgingly decide to take a wander down to the buffet car to buy myself a sandwich, which is unlikely to be tasty, but which will certainly be very expensive. Instinctively, I check the record is tucked well away at the bottom of my bag and begin the trek to car 13. Look, if it's that freaking important to you, you should probably take your bag with you. I mean, maybe you are, but the fact that you're like, I'm tucked into the bottom of my bag makes me kind of feel like you've left your bag, but I guess you haven't. That would be dumb. I'm ordering a ham sandwich and a cup of insipid brown liquid which claims to be coffee, when I noticed a poster suggesting that maybe it would be a good idea to invest in a travel card. I check my wallet to see if by any chance I have a forgotten Oyster card with a few credits on it from my last conference in London. Oyster card being like kind of a prepaid, it's just like a credit card kind of thing, but for London transport. Maybe, actually, probably not just London. Probably Europe. Not Europe. England. What am I talking about? Anyways, as I feared, it must be on a shelf somewhere in my apartment in Bordeaux. Unless, of course, it simply doesn't exist at all in this reality. The steward behind the counter tells me that he's sorry, but they're all out of prepaid cards. I've just resigned myself to a long wait in line on my arrival in the bustle of King's Cross Station, when the person behind me offers me her card. I turn, surprised. She's in her 30s with short hair and a trouser suit. I'm gonna refuse. No, I don't want to take your money, lady. That's very kind, but I can't accept. Please, I insist. I don't take the tube much. Honestly, it's just been lying around in my bag for ages. Her French is excellent, despite the touch of a foreign accent, which I can't place. If you're really resolved on an exchange of resources, buy me a coffee, and we'll call it even. Okay, Eva? I'm almost out of cash, and it'll avoid me paying the card charges for such a small amount. And anyway, I wouldn't mind a bit of company. It'll help me pass the time, don't you think? She holds out a hand. Eva, nice to meet you. Alice. I shake her hand, nod, and order another espresso for her. I join my generous benefactor, who's taken a place near the counter. I slide the coffee to her. She slides the travel card to me. So tell me, Alice, what brings you to London? I take a minute to watch her before answering. This Eva is a bit odd. I'm certainly not going to share my private business with a stranger, no matter how generous she is. Plus, there's nothing to convince me that she's not the umpteenth person who wants to steal Ulysses' record. I'm going to be evasive. I mean, if I have to make something up, then I need to remember that thing that I made up. I'm looking for someone close who I've lost contact with. Apparently, he might have gone to London. Oh, that's exciting. Someone close? Maybe an ex-fiancé? Not exactly. We were never engaged, but we did live together, yes. That's a romantic story. I like it. I wonder why you wanted to make contact again. Let me guess. I'd say that you've lived through something that's changed your view of the world and you're looking for answers. Is that it? I involuntarily stiffen. So, in fact, she knows exactly who I am, and her presence in the line was no coincidence. She scrutinizes me, her eyes too intense, too piercing, making me extremely uneasy. As if she could plumb the depths of my soul with a glance. I try to regain control of the conversation by turning the question back on her. And what brings you to London? Well, I guess you could say that I lost something a few years ago, an object that was priceless to me and my organization. After finally tracking it down very recently, I found that it had changed hands before I could, let's say, secure a transaction, if you see what I mean. If I had any doubts about my companion's intentions before, they are now crystal clear. I could try to feign ignorance and slip away, but I don't believe Eva's the type to make a scene in public. I could also finish this game of make-believe and confront her head-on about the record. You know what? I don't want to speak frankly, because, I mean, what if there's other people around? I'm going to try to keep this on the down low completely, so let's cut off this conversation. No, sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you don't mind, I'm going to go back to my seat. Thank you for your Oyster card. It's very kind of you. I turn away. Eva catches hold of my arm. Alice, let me give you some advice, if I may. You can still forget all this and go back to your little life in Bordeaux. The record won't give you what you're looking for. Think about it. The record stole the love of my life from me. Oh, so that's if we really like Jean-Baptiste. I need to know now. Or let go of my arm, please. So like I need to know what would happen if I was with Ulysse. Look, just let go of my arm, lady. Let go of my arm, please. We look at each other in the eye for a moment, then she releases me. Something tells me we'll meet again. And next time, I hope with all my heart that you'll be ready to return that which belongs to me. She turns to the window and watches the English countryside rush past, cutting off the conversation. I wait, undecided for a moment, before taking my sandwich and coffee and leaving the buffet car. The first thing I notice when I get back to my seat is that my case is gone. See, I told you not to leave your frickin' bag, Alice. I understand better why Eva had redoubled her efforts to keep me talking. I conclude that she must have one or several accomplices, unlike Eddie Black, who seems to be operating alone. Don't expect I'll see my case again, which, in any case, contained nothing of any value. Just some toiletries and a few clothes I brought with me. The record is safe in my handbag with my papers. I didn't see you carrying a handbag before? My neighbor in the next seat looks like she's fast asleep, and I don't have the heart to ask her if she'd noticed anything. As a salve to my conscience, I question the two teenagers in the seat across the aisle, but they shrug their shoulders and murmur, sorry. I drop into my seat, struggling against panic. The thought of finding the conductor and telling him about my problem crosses my mind, but I banish it quickly. And what if that's what they expect me to do? I admit to myself with some difficulty that the conversation with Eva has really shaken me up. Eva will certainly be on the lookout for her first chance to get a hold of the record. I'll have to be doubly careful now. The last half of my journey drags past in feverish suspense. When the train finally begins to pull into the station, I leave my seat to be near the exit, ready to disappear into the crowd as soon as it stops and the doors open. Chapter 3. Well, Chapter 2 didn't last very long, did it? London. Almost 10 o'clock in the morning, local time. I'm in a pub in Holborn with a large coffee and a phone book in front of me. Yesterday, when the train got in, I had scurried to the underground without a backwards glance. I'd had the feeling that several people were seeking me out in the crowd, but I don't know if it was my paranoia at work or if Eva really did have henchmen ready on the station platform to intercept the record. Whatever the case, I'd managed to jump onto a train without confrontation. Considering the circumstances, it was probably risky to stay close to the station, so I made the journey to a little hotel that I'd stayed in for a conference organized by my employers at the bank last spring. After my difficult day, which had ended with me crossing London, constantly checking over my shoulder to be sure I wasn't being followed, I decided to get an early night. Which is why I find myself at a relatively early hour making a list of the city's record stores. with the hope that someone will be able to help me find Ulysses' trail again. I take a mouthful of my cooling coffee, glancing at my handbag. The room that I'd booked didn't have a safe. I brought the record with me, not daring to trust it to the reception desk. I turned the page of the phone book, continuing my selection. To avoid spending too much time traveling, I try to restrict myself to the Mayfair and Covent Gardens areas, which have the advantage of being central and being part of the supposedly trendy districts. I don't know what time frame this game is based in, but like you're looking at the phone book. You don't have a cell phone, with Google. There's no point making a list as long as my arm. Well, 3 well-chosen record stores should be enough for me to find the answers to my questions. And if none of them can help me, I'm pretty sure that at least one of them will be able to point me in the direction of a colleague who may know more. Record store owners are like big cats. Each one has their own hunting ground, but they often quench their thirst at the same watering hole. The first store I noted, Yard Sale Records, has the advantage of being on Carnaby Street. The road is well known for being crammed with clothes and thrift stores. I should be able to buy myself a few clothes here without breaking the bank. With the disappearance of my case, I've had to resign myself to wearing yesterday's clothes, which have already been through the clammy filth of the subways of 2 cities, and a train journey, all of which prompts me to start the day with a bit of shopping. Unless I was mistaken, was her phone in her case that was stolen, or does she not have a phone? Have I just forgotten that they mentioned a phone, 5 minutes ago? Maybe they did. I confess, when I got up this morning after that setback, giving up my search and going back to Bordeaux certainly crossed my mind. But I quickly changed my mind. After all, my apartment had been searched before I left. If I give up now, it's only a matter of time before someone manages to steal the record from me. And I need to know what's happened to this. Not to mention that I still intend to learn how to use the record to return to my reality, even if Eva implied that my chances of success were slim. I turned back to the phone book. I add Strawberry Fields record store to my list. The store claims to be the oldest and most psychedelic in the city, since 1966, in other words, since the great days of swinging London. Considering the age of the store, I imagine there's a strong possibility that Ulysse has been there. And to finish, a little further away in Mayfair, Sidecar Vinyls is specialized in second-hand records, with an advert that says True Rock and Roll, Garage and 60s. I gulp down the rest of my coffee, pay my bill at the bar, as is customary this side of the channel. Then I head west, along New Oxford Street. The sky is overcast, but not threatening rain. I decide a walk will do me good, especially as Carnaby Street is only a half an hour away on foot, as far as I recall. On the way, I stop at a Marks and Spencer's that I come across. I'm sure Marks and Spencer's is like a grocery store. To deal with my most pressing needs, I buy a small travel bag and throw in some toiletries, underwear. I guess I'm wrong. I guess it's like a department store, not a grocery store, aka supermarket. And a few pair of warm tights to combat the hostile chill of the British fall. With the prices in mind, I try to stick to the strictly necessary. Even if, theoretically, this London escapade will be erased when I return to that record again, it would be annoying to run short of funds before that. Quarter of an hour later, I'm in Carnaby Street. I begin, as planned, by visiting a few thrift stores. Recreating a wardrobe from nothing, even a basic one, seems like an almost impossible task, which could easily take all day. So I try not to get distracted, and to focus on the basics. In the end, I have a few tops that can be worn anywhere, a turtleneck sweater, 2 pairs of faded jeans, and a short skirt. I don't know if I'll have the chance to wear it, but I can't resist a very 60s pale blue shift dress. I wonder, do you think this would have changed any? Because that girl that came into the record store in Bordeaux, and she had a 60s look, and we had that option of insinuating that maybe she did have our style, or no, she definitely was not our type, and she had like a 60s look, I believe. I wonder if we'd said, no, I definitely don't like that, would we have a different outcome here? Maybe? Maybe not. It's probably not wise, but I think I can allow myself one impulse buy after all. That should be enough for a few days. And if my wanderings take me to another country again, at least I'll be traveling light. I use the store fitting room to change and slip my dirty clothes into a pocket of my travel bag. Instantly, I feel much better with clean clothes. I look at the time. It's almost midday. I said that I've spent enough time on provisions. It's time to focus on my main reason for coming here. When I get to the yard sale records, the store is plunged in darkness. A notice taped to the door window tells me in handwritten capital letters, won't open until late. Come back later. Sorry, not sorry. Alan. Too bad. I'll just have to come back later. Maybe this Alan will have decided to get out of bed by then. Walked to Strawberry Fields record store. So Strawberry Fields was the psychedelic one. Obviously Strawberry Fields, you know, the Beatles. And Sidecar Vinyl said they were like rock and roll and garage and... Excuse me, my phone is blowing up over here. I feel like they were probably a better bet since we're thinking about music from the 30s that basically became rock and roll of the later generation. So let's go to Sidecar Vinyl. Sidecar Vinyls looks like a garage transformed into a record store. There are 2 Harley Davidsons parked near the entrance that I'm obliged to squeeze past, straddling some boxes of records to get to the counter, which stretches across the back wall. The back of the store is windowless, and the cold light of the neon tubes creates a surprisingly sterile atmosphere. A small group of leather-clad people huddle around the bar with bottles and cans of beer in their hands. I'm asking myself what I'm doing here when the person who I suppose must be the owner, a middle-aged man with a mustache wearing a leather jacket with a Motorhead t-shirt stretched across his round belly, urges me not to be scared and come closer, all with a barely disguised French accent. I decide to answer him in the language of Molière? Molière? I don't know Molière. Can we explain Molière? Do we know who Molière was? I don't know because it's not in here. But okay. Sure. Bonjour. Vous parlez français? The guy seemed caught off guard and starts to laugh after a moment of hesitation. He turns to the group and says in English on their behalf, "Hey guys, say hello to the Froggy." They turn to look at me, and I hear a chorus of hellos, along with a few bonjour, mesdemoiselles, from the bolder ones. Excuse the weirdos. It's meeting day for the Mayfair Motor Club, which I'm a member of. He holds out a hand. I shake it. Didier. Nice to meet you. Tell me, what brings you here? I don't suppose you're here to discuss chokes and stroke volumes. Can't imagine, at least in this territory. There's very little chance that I'll get any useful information, but now that I'm here, I figured that I might as well ask a few questions. I'm looking for a friend who was researching a record. I know that he came to London, so I'm checking some of the record stores in case someone's seen him. He's a record store owner too. Ah, you know, as far as I'm concerned, records pay the bills. Harleys are my real passion. And I'd need a bit more info. What's your mate's name? Ulysse? Brown, curly hair, dark skin, glasses? Didier shakes his head. No, sorry, doesn't ring any bells. And the record he's researching? It's an acetate. 7-inch, white label. Didier smiles and lets out a triumphant, thundering aha. And you're telling me, and you're going to tell me that you can't describe the music that's on it, aren't you? Yeah, that's right. I've heard about that record. I've got an old pal who's been looking for it for years. I'd consider this possibility. Could it be someone I've already met? I could play the innocent and try to learn more. I could also be tough and shut down any attempts at negotiation. You know what? Let's be pretty firm about this. Sorry, but the record's not for sale. Oh no, he doesn't want to buy it. He just wants to listen to it. He believes that listening to the record will literally change his life. His name's Jean-Luc, but he calls himself Eddie Black. Ring any bells? Seeing my face, Didier immediately realizes that yes, it does ring a bell. Ah, hell. I hope he wasn't too crass with you. I promise you, he's a lovely guy. But as I said, he's obsessed by the record. He scares me. He's pathetic. I don't really know what to think. Let's go with he scares me. Like, why is this dude, like, freaking following me around? He followed me from Bordeaux. Even tried to waylay him in a dark street in the middle of the night just yesterday. I wouldn't exactly say he's a lovely guy. To be frank, he scares me. Didier takes a deep breath. And us? Do we scare you too? You know, just because we wear leather jackets and ride motorbikes doesn't make us savages. No one said that about you, freaking dude. You're not stalking me in the middle of the night, so get over yourself, Mr. Didier. I get that the circumstances of your meeting weren't ideal. Knowing Jean-Luc, I'm sure that that was mostly his awkwardness. We've known each other since we were kids, us two. I swear on my life he's a good guy. If you would let him listen to the record. No, that's out of the question, dude, because that record does weird things, and I'm not going to be someone that pushes that or allows that to happen. We don't understand what's going on with this dang record, and anyone that even comes in contact with this stupid record apparently gets, you know, waylaid by the devil. So, no. Don't think it's in his best interest. I'm sorry, but it's out of the question. Despite your pleading in his favor, I don't trust him. And we don't know each other after all. And the record is very important to me. I'm sorry. It's fine. I understand. Well, I tried. It's the least I could do for my mate. If you ever change your mind, you know where to find me. One call to Jean-Luc and he'll come running double time, that's for sure. Fine. I'll keep that in mind. Sorry to have disturbed you. Have a good afternoon. I turn around, clamber between the records and motorbikes again, and find myself back in the street. I walk quickly away from the store, hoping that, to cap it all, after this, I won't be followed by a biker gang. Oh, no, he's just going to call his friend and say, I totally saw her, I know exactly where she's at. Try yard sale records again, walk to Strawberry Fields. Let's go back to yard sale. They're light and movement when my steps lead me back to yard sale records this time. A few loafers loiter among the boxes, while a young girl focused on her listening, headphones firmly in place, moves the needle back and forth on a record player in one of the booths. The background music is folk, a little odd yet inspired, topped by a husky voice, which murmurs in Spanish. The boxes seem to contain quite a lot of new releases, small presses of alternative bands. If they have a second-hand section, I don't know where it could be, which isn't exactly a good sign for my search. Behind the counter, the two sales clerks seem to be arguing. I move closer. Hey, look, it's Abby from NCIS. Just because we've just opened up doesn't mean that you can subject us to your wishy-washy folk music. It's way too late in the day for this. Right, Beth. First, it's not wishy-washy folk music. It's the newest record from Devendra Banhart. It's a new import we just got in. And second, the guy is a genius. And as Alan once again forgot to put his alarm on, we can say that it still counts as morning, right? Fine then. But I get to choose the next record. Deal? Deal. As long as it's not your pseudo-feminist second-rate Sonic Youth. Sleater-Kinney, second-rate Sonic Youth, it's the rock record of the year. So I have to confess that Sleater-Kinney is not, like, I know of them. They're not my, like, super fans. I used to have a boss, a manager, who is all about them, though. Well, either that, or it's the new Franz Ferdinand. Then nobody wins. We've been listening to it on repeat for the last month. We sell 3 copies every time we play it, Garrett. Do you like being able to pay your rent at the end of the month? Excuse me. Beth turns to me, beaming. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I had to interrupt my work for reasons of cultural divergence. With my colleague, but he'll help. The colleague rolls his eyes. What can I do for you? Hold on, did I read that completely wrong? But he'll keep, not he'll help. And yeah, it didn't make any sense when I read it, so I was like, whatever. Alright, we've discovered that I can't read. I'm looking for some information about a rare record. I'm listening. An acetate, 7-inch, white label. Does that ring any bells? Well, I know what an acetate is, but I'd need a bit more detail. You know the artist, the name of the track? Beth clearly has no idea what I'm talking about. I'm about to give up when the other employee, Garrett, comes over. Maybe we should send her to see the boss. Do you reckon? I'm not sure Alan's functioning well enough for any conversation longer than 3 words. Yes, but I overheard what you were saying. Alan was talking about that record not long ago, with the geezer who came by the shop a few times, you know? Garrett turns to me. He was French, too. You know Ulysse? Dark hair, dark-skinned, glasses. That's the one. He had an unusual name. Sounded like the James Joyce book, Ulysses. Garrett says the name English style, pronouncing the final S. I correct him. Ulysse. That's alright, that's it. Do you know him? He's a friend. I guess you could say I'm looking for him. It's best if you talk to the boss. They had some dealings together. They were old friends from what I understand. They knew each other back when the boss lived in Paris. Beth points to the left of the counter at a spiral staircase. He's upstairs, in the second-hand section. As I climb the stairs, the music from the ground floor gradually fades, and when I reach the upper floor, there's a radically different atmosphere. The upper floor is engulfed in shadow, the lights off, a space lit only by the large window, which runs the whole length of the wall. The room is a mess, with boxes of records piled up all over the place, making a striking contrast with the skillfully created trendiness of the ground floor. The final notes of Velvet Underground's Sunday Morning play on the sound system, and are followed by an English folk track from the same period, probably a cassette tape compilation. At the end of the room, behind a desk overflowing with paperwork, a large red-headed guy sits, or rather sprawls in his chair, his head back, and a t-shirt over his face. There's an empty beer mug in one hand, and a tube of aspirin in the other, and a cup of steaming tea cooling on the desk. I approach the desk nervously and clear my throat. Without moving, Alan growls something that sounds like, "Beth, I told you not today," but punctuated with various obscenities. It's not Beth. I'm a friend of Ulysses. Alan lifts the corner of the t-shirt, glances at me, lets out a long sigh, and sits up in his chair. Even now, on what is apparently a bad day, he gives off a kind of calm force which I can find strangely attractive. Ulysse? Ulysse from Paris? Patrizia's ex? Yes, that Ulysse. Ulysse is primarily my ex. Oh, come on. Yes, that one. Yes, if you like, that Ulysse. Alan seems to be having some trouble connecting the various facts of our rambling conversation. And you are? Alice. I'm also Ulysses' ex. I'm looking for him. Alan gestures me to wait. To summarize, you're Alice, Ulysses' ex from before he moved to Paris. Is that right? I nod. And you're looking for him. What can I do for you? How do you know Ulysses? Do you know where he is? Let's get straight to the point. Do you know where he is? Do you know where I can find him? Yes. I mean, no. I mean, not really. Alan rolls his eyes. Sorry, I just woke up, and well, we were a bit wasted last night. What are you doing this evening? I don't have anything planned at the moment. There's a gig in a pub not far away. We planned on going, Beth, Garrett, and I. Can we meet there, 6 p.m.? I need a little time to recover from my rough night. Alan puts the t-shirt back over his face, which seems to mean that our conversation is over. When I go back down the stairs, Beth signals me to come over. So we had a rough night. I told you. He told me to join you at a pub this evening. Do you have the address? Oh yes, the Fox and Sparrow. She notes the address down on a paper for me. So I'll see you there? Unless you want to stay here until closing time, it's up to you. We've got good music and a few magazines to pass the time if you haven't got anything better to do in the meanwhile. After my experience with DDA and his biker group, I wonder if it's worth pursuing my investigations around the London record stores. On the other hand, maybe I'd be missing out on a potential lead. Well, as much as I love you, Beth, and Garrett, I'm gonna go to Strawberry Fields, if that's fine with you. Actually, I'd planned to drop in at another record store where they might have had contact with the person I'm looking for. Oh yes? Which one? Strawberry Fields Records? Does that sound familiar? Beth burst out laughing. Yes, of course I know them. Stoney, the boss, is a minor celebrity in the world of London record shops. He's a bit of a dinosaur. The shop's been going on since the 60s. But his prices, so expensive, it feels like you're in a museum. And he's off his head on pot all day long. I'm not sure you'll get anything out of him. His assistant is ever so nice, though. And I'll admit, she's pretty brave. Next to Stoney, Alan's a barrel of laughs in comparison. The worst we have to handle is when he's not, or when he's been on a bender every 2 or 3 months, like today. You could give it a try, but don't get your hopes up. Look, I'll give it a shot. Thank you, Beth. I'm going to give it a shot anyway. You never know. Okay, we'll see you later on. Yeah. See you later. Beth winks. I'll be force-feeding Alan coffee until then to make sure he'll be in a state to answer your questions. I leave the store and head back up the road towards Strawberry Fields record shop. Stuck between a bookstore and a pub, the faded old wooden facade of Strawberry Fields record store exudes character. The store is very well located on a touristy little pedestrian street. When I push open the door, my nostrils are assaulted by the scents of incense and patchouli. The interior, which is lit by a few floor lamps, is long and narrow, with tiers of records along each side. The A side of Forever Change plays at a volume as subdued as the lighting. Rare records are displayed along the walls, high up, with prices best described as exorbitant. To tell the truth, I feel more like I've walked into a museum than a shop. Hey, look, there's old Stoney. But before we get a chance to talk to Stoney here, I feel like this is a good time to end the episode. So thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you again next time.